Hi, my name is Michael Colgrove. Welcome to Hub Hobby's video tutorial on crafting Sculpt Amoled mountains. Let's get started. To kind of give you an idea, we're going to work this corner in a general shape of what we want. Then you can take smaller chunks of it and work it in just to give some shape to this hill. Some people will use newspaper. Today we're going to continue with the styrofoam. We're going to move into using Sculpt Amoled. So we're going to start by mixing a batch of it. And Sculpt Amoled is very easy to work with. You just add a little water and you mix it until it's about like cottage cheese. This looks like it's going to be pretty close to what we want. And once mixed up, you have about 15 minutes to work with it before it starts to get too hard. And then you just put it wherever you like. You generally want to work in fairly small areas. And you can see how the hill is starting to take shape. Now from here, we're going to have to wait about a day. Well, now that our Sculpt Amoled is dried, we're going to start with just a little ground cover. This is called flat earth. For doing a big layout, you're going to want a lot of paint. So don't get just a little thing like this. Get the biggest size you can get. Now you notice I'm applying this pretty thick. We want it to stay wet for a few minutes so that we can get the ground cover into it. Now this is another Woodland Scenics product. This is called Coarse Turf, and it comes in various colors. And you just want to lightly sprinkle that into your brown paint. And we'll just let it settle into the brown paint. And this will be our base coat. Now another thing I like to do that's very simple, this is some rock that I just picked up off of a trail near my house. You'll notice I put some of the bigger rocks down along the bottom, which is the way they kind of naturally fall in real life. And now this next step you may or may not need to do. So what I've got here, it's called wet water, and all it is water with 2 drops of dish detergent in it, and that'll make it adhere better with our Scenic Cement. Now, Scenic Cement is another Woodland Scenics product, and it's just basically diluted white glue. You can spray it on, it will help it adhere. Now for our little display here, we're going to need a few trees, and the trick is to get it bent into somewhat of a natural looking shape. And then you use a product that they call hobby tack, and you just brush it on where the branches will be. Now our hobby tack has become tacky, and we're ready to start putting the leaves on the tree. Now this is a product, a Woodland Scenics again, called Foliage, and you dip it in there. And you'll see that you have leaves on your tree. Now when we're ready, we're going to plant our trees, and I just use a sharp poker, make a little hole in the Sculpt Amoled, put a drop of white glue in it. Don't worry, it'll dry clear, and then plant your tree. Do the same for the other one. The Sculpt Amoled gives a good foundation for your trees. Put a drop of white glue in it, and we'll plant this tree. You can use leftover clump foliage for little bushes if you like. And again, you can secure these with Scenic Cement. Hi, my name is Michael Colgrove. Welcome to Hub Hobby's video tutorial. Let's get started. For this, we're using Woodland Scenics pigments, and they're sold in many different colors, but these are kind of basics. We have burnt umber, yellow ochre, and black. So we're just going to apply blotches all over of each color. We're not going to get real fancy with it. That's enough of that. Now we'll do the burnt umber, same way. And now we just use this black to mix it all together. And it's good to let it run between the cracks. It looks more natural. And if some of it pools in the ledges, that's good. I kind of like that. Now that we've got our rock colored, then we're just going to continue to scenic around it the same way we did before. We'll start with our paint, and you can paint onto the rock if you like to. It'll just be like grass is overgrowing it a little bit, like we did before, and we'll be pretty much proceeding the same way from now on as we did on our original section. There. And then back again with the turf. We may want to put some more of those rocks underneath there just to look like they fell off over time. And then blend it like we did before. Put a few of those bushes on too, kind of keep it consistent. And then like we did before, we'll wet it down with our wet water with a couple drops of detergent in it. And then we're back to our Scenic Cement. And we'll finish this with a few trees. And these are Woodland Scenic's pre-made trees. They're essentially the same as the one we've already built, but they do the work for you. And for a little variety, we'll add a few shade trees as well. And maybe one more right down in front. Now, if you'd like to add a little more detail, this is something that's very easy to do. I just broke off these little branches off of a tree in my backyard, and we can just position them like they've fallen down. And this is another Woodland Scenics product, and it's called Fine Foliage, and you can see how much finer it is than what we've used previously. Maybe let it hang over the rock and kind of use it to frame the rock face. And then we're back to our Scenic Cement. I kind of like that. Hi, my name is Mike Colgrove, and welcome to Hub Hobby's tutorial on how to weather buildings with chalks. There are many ways to weather buildings, and chalks are just one way. Other people use airbrushes, and other people just use various kinds of paints. It can be done any way you like, but I like chalks for especially beginners because they're inexpensive and they're easy and they're very forgiving. So we're going to start today with a barn. And as you can see out of the box, the barn is quite shiny. It looks like a toy. So we're going to use different colors of chalk that are available through Hub or other stores. Sometimes you can get them through art supply stores. And you may have other ideas where to find them. There's nothing special about them. They're just chalk. But these are nice because they come in various colors that are appropriate for model railroading. We're going to start with medium gray on the roof. Now what I'm going to use to apply the chalk are these Cosmetic Sponges, and they're very easy to use. The main thing to do is just put the chalk on the roof, and this is going to deaden that glare. And you don't want to do this real evenly. Make it look kind of streaky, like the rain's been running down for 50 years. Now you can already tell the difference between the side I did and the side I didn't do. Now in that, we can run a little of grimy black. We're going to try to make this look streaky. This is just a stiff bristled brush, We're going to go kind of easy on this. We're just going to kind of streak in. If you get too much, that's okay. So we're going to take our sponge and we're going to use this to just kind of spread it out a little bit. Keep that streaky look. I kind of like that. Now you can see we get a little bit of streakiness in there. It looks, again, much more natural than the original out of the box. We'll do the other side the same way. Now for the sides, I'm going to use a little bit of gray again. The idea here being that we want to make the wood look bleached and weathered as opposed to bright and shiny, just like the roof. So we use gray, and if a little black mixes in with it, that's fine too. And this stiff bristled brush is good for getting into small places. And again, we don't want it to look real even. There. And now we'll use our sponge to get in there. And again, you can kind of contrast how it's looking with the bright, shiny boards that we haven't done as it was out of the box. I'm going to add a little bit of brown in here too. We're going to try to pretend like the rain has been splashing off the ground up onto the wood a little bit. There, I kind of like that look. Again, if you contrast it with what we started with, see it's starting to look pretty old. Now we're going to use a little bit of rust color on these little pieces of machinery that are laying around. Make them look real rusty. We don't want any white machinery laying around. So we use this rust to kind of just fill in everything that's still white. Can't have a white shovel. If you want to get technical, when smoke comes out the chimney, it makes it black. So we'll blacken the chimney. And I think we've got it pretty well. Remember, we tried to make it look kind of splotchy. Don't want it to look perfectly even. I think we've got that. We've got our detailing with the dirt along the base, gives a little contrast, makes it a little more interesting. And we try to get the wood to look old and peeling and weathered. I think we've got that. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to seal it with dull coat. And all this is a flat, clear spray. We're going to use it to seal the chalk so that it'll stay and it won't get all over your fingers every time you handle it. And that takes care of all you need to do to use chalks to weather a building. Well, for today's tutorial, we're going to learn how to make a simple pond. There are many ways to do water. We need a little bit of depth for our pond. So we've used a piece of styrofoam and cut a hole for the pond. And as we've done before, we're going to use Sculpt Amoled just to blend the edges, make it kind of a gradual incline into the bottom of the pond. And you can make the slope as steep or as gradual as you like, but I kind of want to leave a little room in the middle to show depth. So we're not going to fill it in all the way. So to do that, we're going to use black paint and just paint the part that we want to look like it's deep. So we're just going to do essentially the middle. And you don't need to worry about making this look perfect because we're going to blend our earth-colored paint into this. There, that should show depth. We're going to use a ground colored paint. This is called Flat Earth. Now you notice I'm applying this pretty thick. We want it to stay wet for a few minutes so that we can get the ground cover into it. So now that we've got a good thick coat of paint on this, we'll apply the ground cover. And you just want to lightly sprinkle that into your brown paint and let it fall where it will. This is some rock that I just picked up off of a trail near my house. And we'll give it a little pressure to help it stick a little better. And this will be our base coat. And it looks funny right now, but we'll brush off the excess and that should give us a pretty good base for our pond. Now for our water, we're using a product called Envirotex. And this is very easy to use, but it has to be done properly. Now, It comes in two parts, and it's very important that they be mixed equally. Now for this project, we're just going to mix them both all the way, so we don't have to measure. But if you were just going to use a small amount, you'd have to make sure you used equal amounts of both. And it's very important that they be mixed thoroughly. We're going to just put a small amount on our little pond here and let it spread around. We don't need a lot. And this will spread itself out and flatten itself. Now as it's settling, you'll notice the bubbles. You get rid of those just by breathing on it. Now it'll take about 24 hours for this to be thoroughly dry. We're just going to continue to scenic around it the same way we did before. We'll start with our paint, and you can paint onto the rock if you like to. It'll just be like grass is overgrowing it a little bit. And then back again with the turf. Blend it like we did before, and we'll be pretty much proceeding the same way from now on as we did on our original section.